Greetings, brethren, and welcome to another production from upa7.org. Today we'll pick up a current controversy regarding the close of probation charts. So what's the controversy all about? Well, we'll address the following questions. Is there disharmony between the close of probation chart that's found in Shepherd's Rod Volume 2, page 150, and then the later 1944 Revised Large Chart? Apparently some people think so. So we're going to look at that issue. Does the false prophet have to appear on the scene of action before Ezekiel 9? Some Davidian teachers are making this case. Is this true or not? And then the question, is it true that the chronological order found in the chart image on Time of the Greetings, Volume 2, number 14, page 22, is not in harmony with the rest of the rod message? Wow, that's a serious charge. And then finally, is there a way to harmonize these apparent contradictions? So, for those that aren't familiar with the issue, we're going to show you graphically what this recent controversy is about. This has actually been noticed by Davidians for many years, but now it's erupted into kind of an internal dispute in a particular Davidian group. So we'll begin with this text for meditation. Testimonies, Volume 5, page 453, paragraph 1. It reads, God means that the testing truth shall be brought to the front and become a subject of examination and discussion, even if it is through the contempt placed upon it. The minds of the people must be agitated. Every controversy, every reproach, every slander will be God's means of provoking inquiry and awakening the minds that would otherwise slumber. So this certainly is true in this current case. Is there a discrepancy in the rod message or not? Or is there a way to harmonize? So we're going to use this opportunity because there is controversy. People have contacted us and asked if this teaching is correct or not, and we've seen some problems. So we're going to agitate the minds of the people, and so that we can make sure that we're walking in the path of righteousness, walking in the truth, and seeking to harmonize everything in the rod message. So what's the controversy? Well, here's this image found in Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2, page 150. And it's showing us the period of the harvest period and the close of probation. And this is how it first appeared. So I want you to look at this carefully. And it starts up there on the top in the center, 1929. You got the sealing period, the 144,000, coming down to Ezekiel 9. And then it goes into this next section, the period of the loud cry, the harvest of the second fruits. And then you got the two-horned beast and the false prophet, followed by the woman sitting on the seven heads, church federation, and then finally the woman riding on the scarlet-colored beast, the union of church and state, and then finally the close of probation. So this is the area we want to look at. And now let's compare this with a later version of this chart. This is the one that appeared in 1944. It was announced in Symbolic Code, Volume 9, numbers 1 to 12, page 23, an announcement for the teachers that this new, revised, and improved charts would arise that were even in color. And here's a digitally restored version of it. Much greater detail and clarity. Excellent chart. And once again, it shows the period from 1929, the sealing of the first fruits, down to Ezekiel 9, and then the period of the harvest, a loud cry. So what's the difference? Well, in order to see this, if you haven't caught it yet, let's look at the two charts side by side and focus in on the period after Ezekiel 9. And we'll circle that in red. Notice what comes next is the false prophet and the two-horned beast determined to deceive the world by laws and miracles. Revelation 13, verse 14 and 18. So, and then after that, the woman rides the church federation, the woman sitting on the seven heads. Now compare this with the revised chart. You notice now, after Ezekiel 9, the church federation is first, then the two-horned beast and the false prophet. So the two are switched. Why is this? Davidians have pondered this for a while. And of course, the key thing is both of these things take place after the fulfillment of Ezekiel 9, as shown in the red arrow in both cases. So how can we harmonize this? Well, this is where some professed Davidian teachers have gotten into a lot of trouble trying to make a big deal out of this. And so what we want to offer today is a very simple way to harmonize both of these charts. So how does it work? You'll be amazed how simple it is. So how do we harmonize? Well, what we have over here on the right is the table of contents, the topical index for Shepherd's Rod Volume 2. We ask the question, is it possible that the chart on page 150 as Shepherd's Rod Volume 2 is simply showing the order of subjects as it was presented in the table of contents? Well, if you look closely here under the first arrow, this whole section is called the Beast 666, the False Prophet, the Mother of Harlots, the Man of Sin. Who are these? So, and then it has subheadings under it. And here is the order of the events. Who's the false prophet? Then you have the woman sitting on the heads, and then you have the woman sitting on the beast. That's the order they were presented. And it's interesting that the chart shows that same order. It's showing the order as they're presented in the table of contents. If this is true, then there's no conflict with the text or the 1944 Revised Large Chart, which shows the proper context or ordering of events. So they're both correct in the way that they were originally used. So in essence, both charts are correct depending on how they were used. In the case of the first edition in Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2, page 150, Brother Houteff was simply using it as an order showing the table of contents. But later, the revised chart was more accurate in the sense that it showed the proper context or ordering of events. We recommend that you use the latest revised edition to keep things simple. So there's really not a problem at all. We would always want to use the latest revised version of any tract or chart that Brother Houteff used, and the problem is solved. So there's really no need to make a big issue out of it. That's really the answer. It's that simple. But I guess some people are going to stumble around on this. So what can we read from the text? This is actually the text, and some people said, oh, this contradicts the chart. No, it doesn't. Let's read it. This is from Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2, page 160, summarizing. It says, the tabulation of events in this chapter fully illustrate the great prophetic occurrences that are to transpire in rapid succession as shown in the chart. The union of the churches represented by the woman sitting on the heads must take place before the combined power of the beast and the false prophet is fully realized. The symbols, false prophet and beast, reveal that there shall be a national alliance of church and state. But the woman riding on the beast denotes an international system of church and state enforced by civil law and miraculous power. At the close of probation, the union represented by the symbol of the scarlet-colored beast shall be dissolved with the destruction of the woman, or the head of that union, as pictured at the turning point in the chart. So the text is actually in direct harmony with the later revised 1944 chart. Does that create a problem? No. If Brother Houteff was using the chart in page 150 just to show the order of presentation or reflecting the table of contents, not the context, then we don't have a problem. He revised it. He was the author of the message, and he had the authority to do so. So don't make a big deal out of it. Nobody that I know of uses that chart from page 150 because it was never made into a large chart. Everybody uses that has the original charts, uses that 1944 edition. And when you do that, you have no problem at all, no conflict. Now, what about other charts? Well, it turns out that Brother Houteff revised several of the charts. For example here, this is the chart we often call the history of the world's prophetic symbolic beast. This is the first edition. You'll notice it's a little rougher, a little more amateurish or crude. It's probably penned by Brother Houteff himself. And then later, in 1944, we have this miraculous, spectacular, beautiful illustrated chart with much finer detail, shadowing, and the coloring effects. I mean, this is remarkable. And of course, this is a chart that we would recommend people use. Is one chart right and the other one wrong? No, they're both correct. Same with the harvest chart. So don't make a big deal about it. Also, look at this one. Here's the 7 seals. Okay, if you look at this one, this is the first edition. And if you look at all the details, and then Brother Houteff revised it. So here's the really marvelous illustrated colored version that showed up in 1944. Did you notice any differences between them? It's interesting. Well, there's some details missing here and added that aren't in the other one. And I'll point them out. You notice here on the Sea of Glass, that's the judgment scene, Revelation 4 and 5, and there's the Ancient of Days sitting on the throne, the Lamb standing on the Sea of Glass. Do you realize in the earlier version that the Lamb wasn't there? And also, in the earlier version, there were 3 angels here, the first, second, and third angels' messages, and now they're missing. Did you notice that? Let's go back and look at that early edition. Look at the Sea of Glass. You see that there? No lamb on that Sea of Glass. And then down here, there's the loud cry angel of Revelation 18. And the 3 angels saw these were removed. Does that mean that one's right and one's wrong? No. It's implied when you show the loud cry angel of Revelation 18 that it includes the 3 angels' message. With a knowledge of the message, you would say that Brother Houteff did that simply to present the message in a clearer way in the picture. So it's not that one's right and one's wrong. It's just that Brother Houteff revised it to make it clear, and we should use the later edition. So don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Now, this is the current controversy. This is a presentation given by a Bible worker from the newly organized pre-11th hour ministry. And in their presentation, they make the following claim. And this is some problem. They claim that the false prophet will appear on the scene just before Ezekiel 9, before the purification of the church. Is this true? It's certainly not in the charts, certainly not in the message. Why did they come to this conclusion? Because they don't understand how the charts work. They couldn't harmonize. So later in their presentation, they show the 2 charts, but they make this argument that the 44 revised version was actually what Brother Houteff saw in 1931, because it says, as seen in 1931. So that was the older one, and we can kind of put that aside, and we should be using this one that was showed up in Shepherd's Rod Volume 2, page 150, 1932, where it puts the false prophet, the 2-horned beast, before the Church Federation. So it's diminishing one and putting up the other. And I'm like, no way. There's no way. So this individual has no understanding that the revised chart was published by Brother Houteff in 1944 and used with full endorsement. It's not because he did of what he saw in 1931. What he saw in 1931 was the whole outline, and it's still valid in 1944. It's still valid today in 2023. So this is a false argument. He then goes farther to push this case, trying to make the false prophet identifiable before Ezekiel 9. That's impossible. But he goes to this graphic in 2TG Volume 2, or TG Volume 2, number 14, page 22, shows this illustration, chronological arrangement of Revelation by chapters. And you can read that whole thing to get the idea of what Brother Howe is talking about, but he focuses on chapter 13, and it starts at the fall of Rome, and then it ends at the time of trouble. And he says, see, therefore, the false prophet and the 2-horned beast have to do their work before the time of trouble, before Ezekiel 9, and that's his evidence. And I'm like, what? That's not what this chart is showing, but he makes it appear that way. Maybe he doesn't understand the overlapping principle. It's right there in that TG volume 2 number. It should be number 14, not 24. Page 13, it reads, now I would have you to note that the Revelation contains several subjects, each of which is complete in itself. Although one chapter or subject may overlap or intercept the others, that is, not all the subjects and chapters are in chronological arrangement, with one another. These facts shall be shown as we proceed in our study. So this idea of overlapping events is crucial, not only in this particular TG, but throughout the rod message. You see the rise and fall of nations don't happen, one ends and the other one starts at some specific point, but they overlap. There's periods of overlap. Okay, the transition from pagan Rome to papal Rome was an overlap from 508 to 538, a 30-year period. And those are all shown in the chart. So you can see many examples of overlapping. So when we come back to our Brother Houteff comments in about the summary in chapter 13 and 14, this is 2TG number 14, page 18, let's read. It says, chapter 13 begins with the dissolution of the Roman Empire and with the kings who arose from it, who then took their crowns, as symbolized by the crowned horns of the leopard-like beast. This chapter ends with the two-horned beast decree, the decree to kill all who dare not receive the mark of the beast. Thus will the dragon be wroth with the woman, and will thus persecute the remnant. So it ends with the death decree. Then the 14th chapter starts with the 144,000 standing with the Lamb on Mount Zion. Then follows the three angels' message in their direct and final application for the gathering of the second fruits. Thus the chapter closes with the harvest of the earth. The chapter itself shows that the harvest is in two sections. The first, which is reaped by the Son of Man, and the second by the angel. Evidently, these two harvests yield the first and the second fruits. So we got the sealing of 144,000, Ezekiel 9 there, and then we got the gathering of the second fruits. So is it possible that there's some overlap? Well, absolutely. So there's a sequence of events. And if we go elsewhere in the rod, this is from fundamental beliefs, which is essential. We use this to resolve the whole controversy about when's Jacob's time of trouble. Well, let's use it here to resolve this issue. So event 3 reads that it was manifest anew that the closing work for the church to effect the sealing of the 144,000 servants of God and to give power and force to the three angels' message so that the 144,000 might be empowered to accomplish the closing work for the world and to gather all their brethren out of all nations. Point 4, that the destruction of the tares from among the first fruits of the living results in the purification of the church. So this is the real turning point. There's Ezekiel 9, right there. Now, notice as we go on, point 5, that immediately thereafter, so this is the next in the sequence of events, the angels let loose the four winds, whereupon ensues the time of trouble, and Michael standing up to deliver from it all those whose names were written in the Lamb's Book of Life, Daniel 12:1. So right after Ezekiel 9, Michael stands up to deliver his people, the four winds let loose. And then item 6, that the angels letting loose the four winds to blow over the four corners of the earth does not anticipate a world war, but rather a worldwide decree enforced throughout Babylon by the image beast, and that then no one may buy or sell save he who worships the image. Revelation 13:15-17. So here are events in Revelation 13 taking place what? After Ezekiel 9, in which the false prophet and the two-horned beast do their work. That's interesting. And then 7, that subsequently the time of Jacob's trouble for the 144,000 sons of Jacob logically develops on their way home to the land of their fathers. This is found in Fundamental Beliefs, page 12. So there's a sequence of events, and if you go back to the chart in questions, that's exactly what's shown here in the Revised Large Chart. So if we start at the top there's 1929, and we go down the period of the sealing of the first fruits, the 144,000. That concludes with the slaying of those that have not the seal. There's Ezekiel 9 right there. And then we enter into the second section, the time of the harvest, the loud cry period, and now we notice the proper sequence, the church federation, the woman sitting on the 7 heads, and then the beast and the false prophet determined to deceive the world by miracles and laws. So this is part in Revelation 13, verses 14 to 18. So this is all taking place after Ezekiel 9. So the false prophet shows up after Ezekiel 9. Today we can't identify the false prophet. There are several candidates, but to identify it for sure is impossible. So this brother's teaching that the false prophet has to rise before Ezekiel 9 is contrary to the rod. And of course the last step is that the woman sits on the beast, and we have the union and church estate, and then finally close of probation. So the chart is in total harmony with the sequence of events in the fundamental beliefs. That's what we should follow. So when we come back to this graphic, it's not showing those details, and that's not its intent. There are clearly events in Revelation 13 that spill over after Ezekiel 9 in the time of trouble during the loud cry period. But this is not pointing out all those details. Those are found elsewhere in the rod. So don't read into this particular graphic more than that's there. It's not trying to show us when the false prophet arises. Okay? That's detailed in the harvest chart, the close of probation chart, and elsewhere in the message. And then finally, it's interesting that this ministry having an internal dispute. There's another teacher that's, I guess, opposing some of this, but makes this outrageous conclusion. Is this correct? And this is found on a blog post and also published in a YouTube video. But this is their summary conclusion. From the chart angle, the harvest chart matches the message's teaching on the timeline of events. Okay, that's true. However, notice the next sentence. The S-Rod Volume 2 chart, and I put in brackets there, the one found on page 150, the early edition, and the below chart, that is this chronological order of chapters in Revelation, that's found in 2TG 1422, do not harmonize with the message. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. How can you say that? He's really pitting Brother Houteff against himself. And this is impossible. The more likely explanation is that this individual can't harmonize it in their own mind, but then is projecting on Brother Houteff. This is a very dangerous thing. He furthermore goes on to claim that the shepherd's rod chart was, quote, due to limited knowledge at the time. And further, it seems the misplaced picture does not align with the written word in the same book. The chart below, the one in 2GG 1422, is general in scope and cannot be used as a basis for timeline events due to its very limited nature. Oh, brother, this is just crazy. He's charging that Brother Houteff had limited knowledge. Who's this man to tell Brother Houteff how to teach his message? The much more likely explanation is that this novice does not understand the rod message for himself, but is imposing his own understanding and then charging that Brother Houteff has put things in the rod that don't harmonize with the message. And I said, Lord have mercy. This is bad news. So what can we conclude from this pre-11th hour ministry? Well, the following. The close of probation chart found in 2SR page 150 is correct in the sense that it shows the order of discussion as found in the table of contents. That's it. Simple and plain. Okay? Don't make a mountain out of a molehill. Later, the 1944 revised chart of the close of probation is correct in the sense that it shows the proper context, not content, but context or order of events. This being the latest revision, it is the charts that should be used in all our studies. There's the solution to the problem. So we don't have to claim that Brother Houteff has things in the message that don't harmonize. That's false. That's absolutely false. Efforts by some Davidian teachers to place the false prophet before Ezekiel 9 based on a misunderstanding of the close of probation charts and a misuse of the graphic found on 2TG 14 page 22 create unnecessary confusion and should be rejected. That's how we were notified. Some sister shared with us this video and said, what do you think of it? I'm confused. And I watched the first 35 minutes and I said, red flags popped up. And I said, no wonder. They don't understand how the message is put together and why Brother Houteff might have done that on that first chart found in Shepherd's Rod, Volume 2. And finally, another pre-11th hour teacher makes the very dangerous claim that the 2SR 150 chart and the 2TG 14 graphic, quote, do not harmonize with the message, and that Brother Houteff had, quote, limited knowledge. These are the identifying marks of a novice who should not be teaching in the name of the Shepherd's Rod message. And this is a sad state of affairs. But our only counsel is to teach the truth, follow the original Shepherd's Rod message, and follow this account, inspired counsel from the Spirit of Prophecy, and do not attend their meetings or watch their videos. It reads, Early Writings, page 124 and 125, it reads, I was shown the necessity of those who believe that we're having the last message of mercy being separate from those who are daily imbibing new errors. I saw that neither young nor old should attend their meetings, for it is wrong to thus encourage them while they teach error that is a deadly poison to the soul, and teach for doctrines the commandments of men. The influence of such gatherings is not good. If God has delivered us from such darkness and error, we should stand fast in the liberty wherewith he has set us free and rejoice in the truth. God is displeased with us when we go to listen to error without being obliged to go. For unless he sends us to those meetings where error is forced home to the people by the power of the will, he will not keep us. The angels cease their watchful care over us, and we are left to the buffetings of the enemy, to be darkened and weakened by him and the power of his evil angels, and the light around us becomes contaminated with the darkness. So this is the appropriate counsel, is wherever confusion abounds and false understandings and limited knowledge of the message, we should avoid those meetings. We should go gather with friends of the present truth, those that read and study the original Shepherd's Rod for themselves. And if you are interested in where you can join us with Zoom meetings, then contact us as follows. So please, if you have any further questions, comments on this subject or others, please subscribe to this YouTube channel, Universal Publishing Association, for future updates on all kinds of interesting topics related to the advance of the original Shepherd's Rod message. If you'd like to request copies of the original Shepherd's Rod tract literature or the charts for assistance to set up your own publishing house in your country, then please feel free to contact us anytime. Here's our email, our phone. You can call, text, or connect with us on WhatsApp, or visit our website, whiteparish.org, one of our websites where we post a lot of valuable historical content, a lot of interesting new things coming out related to the history of this message. Or you can contact us. We have ministries in South Africa, Zimbabwe, the United States, Vanuatu, Zambia, Malawi. We have websites, video channels on YouTube, Bright Eon, social media platforms. So please feel free to contact us, and we can connect you with brethren in your area or help you set up publishing in your country and advance the original message in its simplicity, in its purity, in its original format, and to harmonize all things and not to try to blame Brother Houteff for not understanding his own message. This is ludicrous. So let us stand for the truth, stand strong, come what may, and to cease ye from men whose breath are in their nostrils. Godspeed.